New York Islanders rookie sensation Matthew Schaefer is getting consideration for the Canadian Olympic team. We'll tell you why that's probably not good for the New York Islanders. We've got that and a lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. And thank you for helping to make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. We couldn't have done it without you. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the New York Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad you could join us today to talk a little Islanders hockey, and we've got a busy show. We're going to talk about Matthew Schaefer getting consideration for the Canadian Olympic team and why that's probably not a good thing for the New York Islanders. We'll also talk about the league's double standard when it comes to suspensions and how that affected the Islanders. And we'll answer your mailbag questions on a variety of topics concerning this team that has really improved so far this season. Let's start with the Matthew Schaefer situation. And look, as far as the Islanders are concerned, even Matthew Darche, if you caught his between periods interview with Shannon Hogan on MSG Network a couple of days back, I don't think even Matthew Darche thought that Matthew Schaefer would be this good this soon. And now it was announced late last week that Schaefer is in the drug testing protocol for the Olympics. So it means at the very least that the powers that be at Team Canada are considering adding Matthew Schaefer to their Olympic roster. And, does he deserve the consideration? Absolutely. He has been outstanding, and right now he is the favorite for the Calder Trophy as the NHL's top rookie. He is also, very possibly going to represent the Islanders in the All-Star game, could even get some Norris Trophy consideration if he continues to play this well. But should he go to Milan and the Olympics? And look, you've got some really good Canadian players that are going to be battling for spots. Cale Makar, Jacob Chychrun, Josh Morrissey, Shea Theodore, and more. And ultimately, while Schaefer is playing well enough to be considered, here's some of the reasons I think the Islanders would rather have him not go. He's 18 years old. He's still eligible, by the way, if the Islanders were to decide to lend him to Canada. He's still eligible to play in World Juniors this year. Now, he's not going to, I understand. But just to keep in mind how old he is, he's eligible for Team Canada in the World Juniors this year. But forgetting all of that, last year, Matthew Schaefer played 17 games, suffered an injury, missed the rest of the season. In fact, the injury was suffered at World Juniors. There were scouts questioning whether or not Matthew Schaefer should be the first overall pick because he was so young. I think he made the draft threshold by less than a week as far as the cutoff date was concerned. He didn't turn 18 until September. And because scouts only got to see him for, those 17 games plus what he did at World Juniors, and that's not a huge track record. But here's what else it is. Here we are, Thanksgiving week in the United States, and Matthew Schaefer has already played more games in the NHL this year than he did last year, all year in juniors. He is playing against men who are stronger, maybe not faster, but stronger and bigger and more physically mature than he is. He has 7 goals and 15 points in 23 games. He's a +8, only has 8 penalty minutes. He's blocked 27 shots in 23 games. He is a catalyst for this New York Islanders team. He makes the players around him better. He is somebody who is that good. But the last thing any Islanders fan wants to see is Matthew Schaefer getting injured at the Olympics. And look, Islander fans, everydayers, we've talked about this before. You go back 12 years, is it already? Where John Tavares, who was then the best player on the New York Islanders, suffered a season-ending injury at the Olympics. Islanders end up missing the playoffs as a result. Schaefer is taking a physical pounding as it is. And opposing teams are coming after him when they can. After the whistle, in the corners. I mean, that's hockey, okay? It's unavoidable. But I much prefer, A, not risking injury, and B, not risking the wear and tear that the Olympic tournament would have on his still maturing 18-year-old body. And giving him, a couple of weeks off in February while the Olympics are going on may very well be the best thing the New York Islanders can do for Matthew Schaefer. You've heard in many different sports the term the rookie wall. And for example, in the NFL, there's 17 games plus preseason games, plus hopefully playoff games. In college football, you play 12 and then maybe a playoff game or 2. And very often rookies in November or December, right around this time of year, they hit what's called the rookie wall. Their body is just not used to the extra punishment that it takes in a pro season, also playing against bigger, stronger, faster guys than it is in a college season. In the NHL, you do wear down over the course of a season. Nobody, by the time you get to February or March, nobody is 100% healthy in the National Hockey League. I really think, from a selfish New York Islanders perspective, it is better to let Matthew Schaefer rest. And he will have, if he continues to play as well as he is, in 4 years, he may not only be on the Canadian Olympic team, he may be one of their better players. He could even, in 8 years or 12 years, be a potential captain. We don't know. But ultimately, he's better off pacing himself, taking that break this year, and being ready and rejuvenated for the New York Islanders as they hit the stretch drive. So is it a big honor for Matthew Schaefer? Yes. if he were to go to the Olympics? Would he gain some valuable experience playing against some of the best players in the world and playing with some of the best players in the world? Absolutely. But you know what? He's going to play in more than his share of all-star games. He's going to play in his share of Olympics. He's going to play in Four Nations tournaments, World Championships if the Islanders don't make the playoffs. He is going to get plenty of chances to represent Canada in international competitions. He's already been at World Juniors last year, okay? From an Islanders standpoint, let the kid have a little break. Give him time off. It's something that always frustrated me about in-season competition. I love the Olympics. I love when NHL players go to the Olympics because it brings out the best in the tournament. It makes the tournament higher quality. But injuries, you risk those injuries. I much prefer if they did it like the World Championships, where it's after the season is over. Can't do it that way, the way the Olympics work. I get it, but I don't want Matthew Schaefer risking injury and wearing himself down by participating in the Olympics. Feel free to comment and chime in. We're going to put a poll up on our YouTube page about this, but I'd love to hear what you guys all think. I would rather that he stay home. We have got a lot more to get to on today's show. Let's revisit the Mikko Rantanen mess and why the NHL has a double standard about Rantanen and other star players. We'll also take a deep dive into the mailbag and answer your questions. And for our Islanders birthday of the day, a former University of Michigan defenseman who was with the Islanders in the late 80s and early 90s. Let's see if you can guess who this Acton, Massachusetts native is. We've got all that and more next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you could even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. And Islander fans, use your knowledge of the Islanders and the game of hockey on FanDuel as well. Check out the odds for Wednesday's game against the Bruins. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up today and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Again, place that first $5 bet, and if it wins, you get $300 in bonus bets. Visit FanDuel.com to check it out today. Little update before we get into the whole situation with Mikko Rantanen. The New York Islanders announcing that Marshall Warren, defenseman, returned on loan to Bridgeport. That was announced on Monday in the morning. And here's the deal. It means, by the way, that Marshall Warren will not be available to the New York Islanders Wednesday or Friday, because the rules are that you can't just send somebody down for paper cap space ramifications. So they have to play one game in Bridgeport or for Bridgeport before being recalled. And essentially Bridgeport plays next Friday night, this coming Friday, the day after American Thanksgiving. So, yes, the Islanders may not have an extra defenseman available either this Wednesday or this Friday, which are their next two games. They're going to go with Adam Boqvist as the sixth defenseman, and then we'll see, A, whether they call somebody else up, or B, whether or not they recall Warren. But as of right now, Marshall Warren, he was the seventh defenseman the last few games. He is back with the Bridgeport Islanders. I've got to address what's going on with Mikko Rantanen, because the NHL blew it the first time when Rantanen injured Alexander Romanov earlier last week. That was last Tuesday. He plays another game later in the week and gets fined for embellishing. Okay, whatever. Then he plays a game against the Calgary Flames over the weekend and gets ejected for boarding, almost, the same kind of hit, clearly hitting someone when you could read the name on the back of the jersey and the numbers behind them. And he ends up taking out Matt Coronado, and he's ejected. 5-minute major, ejected from the game. Under league rules, there is an automatic 1-game suspension after you get 2 game misconducts for physical infractions like charging, boarding, checking from behind, headbutting, interference, kneeing. If you get 2 of those in less than 41 games, you automatically have a 1-game suspension. He got 2 of them in 3 games over the course of less than a week. And the 1-game suspension is automatic, but they did not give him any additional games. Now, there was an argument to be made. I don't agree with it, but I understand Dallas Stars fans saying, okay, there was contact with Scott Mayfield, and that's why he hit Romanov. And I don't agree with that, but there's an argument that can be made. And then you add to the fact that, he has never been suspended before for any kind of dirty hit like that. All of that rings true. I get it. No argument about that. But he then goes out and does a very similar thing Saturday. Again, gets ejected. 5-minute major, game misconduct, hitting from behind. This one was not provoked. This one, there was no contact with any other player. This was just a straight out textbook dirty hit from behind. The boarding penalty, just like against the Islanders, the boarding penalty and the game misconduct were absolutely the right call. And the league leaves it. The Department of Player Safety still only gives him that mandatory 1-game suspension. What's the old cliche? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I thought he should have gotten 2 or 3 games after the first hit on Romanov. Romanov is out for the season now, which usually is taken into consideration when determining suspensions. But for him to do it a second time in 3 games, and the only penalty is this 1-game, mandatory 1-game suspension, that's just flat out wrong. Because, and I even made the argument last week, I don't think it was intentional. I don't think he's that kind of player. Well, now when you've committed the same infraction twice in a week, twice in 3 games, and it's a dangerous play, and people's seasons and careers could be altered by it, it's got to be more than this little 1-game slap on the wrist. And there is very little doubt in my mind that the NHL has a double standard for star players. Not Dallas Stars, but superstars, elite players. And make no mistake about it, Mikko Rantanen is one of the best players in the National Hockey League. He is super talented. He is dangerous. He was the most desired trade target last year twice. But if you commit a dangerous play twice in 3 games and you just get that little slap on the wrist, and I wonder, I think out loud, and I wonder if the rules did not mandate a 1-game suspension, would the league have even given him that? There cannot be a double standard. A dangerous play is a dangerous play. And whether it's Wayne Gretzky or it's Joe Blow committing a dangerous play like boarding, hitting from behind, you've got to penalize that player. Now, obviously, if a person is a repeat offender, they should have an additional game or 2 added to their suspension. But guess what? Mikko Rantanen is now a repeat offender. He apparently did not learn anything from the Alexander Romanov situation. Does the exact same thing 3-4 days later. Should have been a minimum of 3 games, after the second incident, if it wasn't given after the initial Romanov incident. It is not right to just let star players slide and let third liners, fourth liners, third pair defensemen be penalized harshly. It's frustrating. It's wrong. I understand guys like Mikko Rantanen sell tickets. So the NHL, if the Dallas Stars are on the road and you bought a ticket to see them, you want to see Mikko Rantanen. But you got to police the game fairly. And right now, the NHL not doing that. We have got a lot more to get to on today's show. We'll dip into the mailbag. We'll also have our Islanders birthday of the day. All of that and more next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for these opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. But that's where Game Time comes in. It's the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I love that what you see is what you pay. There are no hidden fees at checkout. And they have zone deals that are an absolute game changer. You pick the section, Game Time picks your seats, and you save big. You could even find NHL tickets for under $25. So take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time. All right, let's dip into the mailbag, and we do have a bunch of them. First, we have Sean from Saskatchewan. Super fan of the show. Saskatchewan, Canada being the home of Jethro and Brian Trottier, he says. Although not cheering on the long-term injury to Alexander Romanov, I believe he's important and gives us a physical presence. And he has received some undue criticism. Maybe this will force the hand of Darsh to acquire someone to fill the void, a chance to package someone from the glut of veteran forwards and speed up the rebuild to strengthen our already weak defense. Dare I say Pageau, although he is one that shows the heart, determination, and hustle, he holds the most value. LGI, I love this team. Thank you, Sean, for the question. Look, it would not surprise me if Matthew Darsh adds a defenseman. The only question I have is, do we see a big-time acquisition, someone who is not just a rental, someone who's going to be here not just for the rest of this season, but maybe, a 25 years old or younger player who could be part of this organization going forward? Or Do we go the Adam Boqvist, Tony DeAngelo route where you bring in someone on waivers or a free agent or trade, for a 7th round draft pick, a journeyman player who's just going to fill in? I would rather see the Islanders add a player who really could impact this team over the long run, but we'll see. We'll see what is ultimately done. Next question was not signed, but here it is. Hey, Gil, thanks for all you do for keeping me in the know on a daily basis about the best hockey team out there. Wanted to ask, because I don't have enough intel on him, even though I do remember some of his time with the Rangers, what would be the drawbacks of playing Tony DeAngelo as a forward? I was just curious. You frequently mention his inability to play solid defense over his career, but he seems to have a good shot and be a decent playmaker offensively. Just wanting your opinion of this, and would it even remotely be a viable option? Why or why not? Well, thank you for the question. And when you say a viable option, is it a viable option for a shift or two? Maybe if the Islanders don't have any better options, that's certainly a possibility. But realistically speaking, I don't think that it's something you do in the middle of a season. Look, there have been plenty of Islander players who have played both defense and forward. Jean Potvin played forward a bit for the Islanders in the mid-'70s when they were short a player or two. But realistically speaking, it's learning the game. And what I think Tony DeAngelo would be great with the puck as a forward, but picking up his man, back checking, digging in the corners may not be his thing. So I think if you're going to do it, and he may have the skill set to do it, you got to do it during training camp, work with him over the offseason. Doing it in the middle of the season is probably not the best way to go. I could see it in an emergency if someone gets hurt and they're down a forward or two in the middle of a game, but I don't think it's the way to go. He may have the ability, but he would have to make the transition. Next question is all the way from Poland. Hi, Gil. Casper here, sending another greeting from Poznan, Poland. Still a fan, still a regular listener, especially this season, as it's the most exciting Islanders team I've seen since the playoff run in 2020. I think we need to come back and seriously consider adding a tough physical guy to the lineup. Seeing how Romanov and now J.G. Pageau got hurt after dirty hits on the boards, an enforcer is needed ASAP. Would love to hear your thoughts on this and maybe some concrete players the Islanders could bring. Thanks again for doing the show. I appreciate it greatly. Let's go Islanders. Casper from Poland. And thank you, Casper, for, Poland. I'm honored. It's great to have a viewer or listener in Poland. Casper, you're preaching to the choir. I think this team needs to add a little physicality. I think they need to add a player. Jack-Eye from Montreal might be a possibility. He can play defense. He could also play forward. But ultimately, if you're going to fit into Patrick Roy's system, you're not adding a guy who only fights or only hits people. He's got to be able to skate. He's got to be able to play. This team does lack physicality. Everydayers may recall I talked about the importance of protecting Matthew Schaefer. We have already seen, as Casper mentioned, players get hurt as a result of these liberties that other teams have taken with Islanders players. So, I would definitely want to bring in a more physical player or two in the short run. And, it's something this team needs. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And today is the 60th birthday of former Islanders defenseman Jeff Norton, the Acton, Mass native, a third-round pick of the Islanders in 1984. Spent 3 years at the University of Michigan. And then joined the Islanders after the 1988 Olympics. had 53 points for the Islanders in 1989-90, added 50 points, 12 goals, 38 assists in 92-93. Later played for the Sharks, the Blues, the Oilers, the Lightning, the Panthers, the Sharks again, the Penguins, the Panthers again, and the Bruins before ending his career after the 2001-2002 season. Played in 799 career NHL games, 52 goals, 384 points, and 615 penalty minutes. Had 4 goals, 25 points in 65 playoff games. One of his better games as an Islander, January 12th, 1993, Islanders hosting the Flames at the Old Barn. And in this game, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Jeff Norton, scores a power play goal in the third period. Ian Fraser and Pierre Turgeon with the assists. And then less than 3 minutes later, he sets up Ian Fraser, Derek King getting the other assist. Islanders go on to beat the Flames by a final score of 8-2. For Jeff Norton, our Islanders' birthday of the day, he had a goal. He had 2 assists in this game, 3 points. He's a +1. He had 2 shots on goal, and he helped the Islanders win this game going away. So great to see Jeff Norton. He also, set up 2 goals by Ian Fraser in this game. Jeff Norton, a power play specialist and a very good offensive defenseman. He is our Islanders' birthday of the day. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. You could find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. If you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could follow the show on X at Locked On Isles. You could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYRVSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I'm live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for a little instant insight and analysis, and it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Everydayers, we are back tomorrow. We'll have a preview of Wednesday night's game against the Boston Bruins, and we'll have our weekly farm and prospect report, so make sure you join us for that. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, and of course, let's go Islanders.